Something's missing this year. But what?
Don't worry. You'll get the shit. Welcome to hell!
I hope you guys enjoyed this small year-long break. Or was it 2 years? I don't know. Time's a little bit weird when you're trying to make sure everything is perfectly sinister. But we will now return to the top 10 horror games list.
Yes! Yes!
Numbers 10 through 6 may have been terrifying in their own unique ways that, quite frankly, even I'm looking back at those like, yeah, those seem more like votes from me and my writing team at the time. But 5 through 1, though, are more of a personal taste that I myself am going to enjoy sinking my teeth into. Let's begin. So, we all know that there are certain things that terrify us all in the night, to where we're all just trying to piece together what really will make us shake and shiver within every small things. But how on earth do we respond when we're trapped within a silent mist? Yeah, Silent Hill at number 5 is something that I feel like a lot of people saw coming, but not this low on the list. But why? I mean, it's got everything we all wanted in life, isn't it? It has horror, it has intrigue, it has the suspense that makes us all sort of quiver into our own skin and start screaming in terror. How could this not be what we all crave as number 1? There are a couple of reasons why. But I will go over why this is so high on the list compared to other entries that we had prior in part 1. Number 1, you can't really fight your way through a lot of problems in good horror. Sometimes you just gotta figure out a way around it using logic. This is a game that knows how to do logic-based strategy well. It makes you get into that feel of not everything can be solved with just not everything can just be solved by just that whole chop game type stuff. Sometimes you just gotta use that whole noodle to then get through the whole entire day just like, bruh, I got you with this whole entire thing. While you got the get, I got the logic. I got that whole brain game going on. You feel what I'm saying? Cause that's how it fucking feels when you playing fucking Silent Hill, bruh. But that same vein though, when you kind of go away from certain titles of Silent Hill, the fear factor sort of dies out more and more. It dilutes itself into the ocean that is horror-based macabre. And then when you just kind of meme up everything with the UFO endings, and then the movies, and then the comic books. Oh god, the comic books. Just so much wrong, and why? Who approved this? Going into number 4, though, I did not plan this out. I went through this whole entire scripting process. Did not plan this out. Isn't that funny? This just sort of happened by accident, because I just went by what I went on for personal taste. And then number 4 just sort of creeped on me, like that one guy.
What are you buying?
I'm not buying anything today, but we are putting you and your game of Resident Evil 4 on this motherfucking countdown at number 4.
Resident Evil 4.
I mean, what else can be said about Resident Evil 4 at this point? It's probably one of the most popular entries into the Resident Evil franchise. Yeah, the remakes made everything go up to 11. Yes, there are a lot more quotable stuff from the original games. And then that couple of spin-offs where you had to fight people in the zoos. And then the new memes. But Resident Evil 4 just kind of sold back into the whole reason that we fell in love with the franchise to begin with. Leon Kennedy trying to save the president's daughter while fighting off a bunch of infected that are completely possessed by parasites. Not just regular zombies, parasites. And it just gets more and more deranged once you start playing more and more of it. I should know! I had to stream this thing! Which y'all could probably see me doing some more streams right now on Twitch. All I'm kind of saying at this point, though, is that Resident Evil 4 raised the bar a lot higher for itself than other games on this list, because it tried to revive a franchise that was starting to dwindle a little bit more in its popularity than where it was starting out from. But it's only at number 4 because overall, even if you're trying to just put this in a chronological order for where the rest of the games went to, you then gotta go into where it leads up towards, and then how Resident Evil as itself becomes more of its own self-made parody, and then you look forward to the future that's Resident Evil 8.
What is the point of this thing?
So let's just dive into number 3 by going in with a clear head, a nice conscience, and totally not trying to do anything with some shock value. Or I could just jump into this by talking about a few things involving psychological horror as a whole.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Whatever. Let's just go into number 3 of Call of Cthulhu. There's a lot you can say about cosmic horror that kind of makes it a nice, distinct cousin of psychological horror. The fear of the unknown and what it can bring out of people, as well as that nice distrust around every single person that makes you feel like a singular person in a world where everything you feel like has gone mad. Everything about it just secretes itself to tell you nothing is as it seems, and you might be the last sane person on Earth. In that whole visage, it just sort of seems like it's the perfect thing for anyone that wants to experience a nice shock towards what you feel like is the ultimate reality. Like, what you're experiencing isn't truly just that. Like, something about it feels like you're twisted and mangled by your own mind playing tricks on you. That's how odd this whole thing has kind of blended itself to be. And I would love to give Call of Cthulhu even more grounds towards it for its gameplay value and whatnot, but, see, there's a reason it's only at number 3 in comparison to what I'm going to talk about next. And it's not for gameplay stuff. It's just because when you kind of break down a lot of stuff involving H.P. Lovecraft at the time, when he was making this stuff, and when you're adapting said stuff without any nuance into it, it feels a little...
That's racist.
I was gonna say a little bit cheesy, but thanks whoever was editing this. Who was editing this anyway? Before we get into the top 2 of this entire list, allow me to take this moment to talk to you guys about why covering horror games is so important, not only for the month of October, but just in general. The fact that horror itself as a genre is so broad in how it can be perceived means that there is no unique way about looking at it for a genre standpoint, because everything that has to do with horror is something that's more personal towards the person. You can make anything into a horror genre because there is no distinct way of telling a horror story. You just need something that can bring out the fear in the readers, the writers, the directors, the viewers. Whatever your medium is, horror will exist as long as you try to capture what terrifies the people around you. So how else can you illustrate that than in Selma? In a tale that's set within the ocean's grasp, where anyone and everything feels like it's just a giant threat that you yourself cannot feel as if it's a major threat for your mind or for yourself physically. It's that nice way of hitting 2 different distinct fears psychologically. Whether it's about the fear of the ocean, the fear of the unknown, or a fear of that you may or may not even...
Spoilers.
It gives off those nice layers of uncertainty towards everything as the story continues to build on itself more and more, as other players will just dive into this entire extreme, feel like they don't know what else is going to happen for them, and then when the whole big plot twist finally start hitting, it hits you in that way that you're terrified, if not petrified, in what you're learning, what you're fully experiencing about what is transpiring around you, how you're trying to make sense of all of these intricate, nice manners that make you almost want to crawl back into yourselves. It's one of those nice small touches that brings forth even more towards what you want to deliver, but also give towards something that kind of gives off a stronger appeal that even you yourself weren't ready for. But why is this not number one from all I'm stating? In its whole entire eccentricity about what I would cover about horror, my key demographic for viewership isn't done by simple fears that can be explained in normal circumstances, nor is it something that's very fantastical. Although I do love the fantastical medium, Selma was only strong enough to be a number 2 pull, but only because it took me so long to understand the beauty and grandeur of it. Whereas number 1 just so happens to be one of my favorite video games of all time. I'm going to open up the number 1 entry by asking one simple question. How far will you go for a loved one? If no one saw this coming after my speech, I am very, very surprised. Heavy Rain is one of the few games I have tried numerous times to get multiple endings for, and to see every single ending unfold before my very eyes. Whether it was to watch others just perish in front of me to get the bad ending so the killer got away with it, or if it was just to see one man save his child, but also somewhat die in the crossfires because the police do not understand that circumstantial evidence is circumstantial evidence, you stupid sons of... It just goes into a lot of different layers when you just go on a psychological standpoint, which is what I enjoy most from horror films, if not horror media in general. The psychosis behind what makes a killer is what drives me to want to understand more about the genre. What makes Pennywise or Jigsaw or Candyman just sort of interesting characters in their motifs, because they're more than just simple caricatures. They have their own modus operandi. They have their driving force for why they are who they are. There's an origin story behind everything that's transpiring, because that's what they're trying to give you. Their modus operandi isn't just a simple thing of the matter. Everything that they're building towards has more meat to it than what you're giving itself credit for. That in and of itself means that there's more to dig into, and why there are multiple watchings, different horror channels, and different analysts trying to tell you guys different angles you never saw before. And that's the beauty behind why I feel like Heavy Rain is the number 1 horror movie for at least myself in the whole grand scheme of things. And would probably hold that to this day to be the number 1 horror game I would go to. Not saying it's the greatest horror game I've ever played. Trust me, I've played a lot more interesting and very well compelling and well-written horror games throughout my career, but this is the only one that on a personal level I can still understand the horror but want to understand more. Like, there are more mysteries towards this than a simple amount of it. There's more to a simple scene than what you can perceive in your whole entire mind's eye. And that's what I find very fascinating enough to dive into over and over again. Even if I forget it, I will be blown away by what I will remember once I'm just enticed into playing more and more. And that's how you need to have a good number 1 horror game in its entirety, no matter what anyone else will say or can say.
Oh, one last thing, sir.
Well, there's probably just one more countdown I need to do, but in the meantime, though, guys, let's just ask one small thing. Y'all ready to see something get slashed up? Or y'all ready to see something get all gory?
You will never win.